welcome back to the program. So I have the pleasure to have Sonny Borrelli on the telephone with us right now, and he's going to talk about the new resolution that is coming out of the Arizona legislature. Sonny, real quickly, I just want to ask you, obviously we know that Katie Hobbs vetoed excellent legislation just last week, which would have, of course, given us more election integrity. However, you have now come out with a press release, and this has been breaking news today, and what you have basically said is that based on the plenary power vested in you in the state legislature, that you can override in some respects the governor's veto by not needing her signature and actually do a resolution to ban these machines. Can you explain that a little bit more clearly for the audience?
Well, it doesn't override the governor. The resolution bypasses the governor because of us reclaiming our plenary authority over federal elections. Now, she vetoed two bills that pertain to election integrity for electronic voting systems. Well, I had a bill that she vetoed, 1074, and she vetoed that had the requirements on that for basically meeting the same DoD standards for our weapon systems, okay? And, of course, Steve Montenegro, representative, had one that got vetoed last week.
Right.
That pretty much did the same thing. Once again, she's, blocking anything that will protect any kind of cybersecurity on electronic voting systems, which is ironic because she signed an executive order last week or the week before that bans TikTok being put on government equipment, on government computers and devices. So she bans TikTok because of the Chinese, element, but yet you have electronic voting systems that have the motherboard and other components made in China, the People's Republic of China, these things like that. So it's kind of ironic. So, or hypocritical, I might add. But what the resolution does, it bypasses the governor. It doesn't need the governor's signature. Well, my opinion is we're reclaiming our plenary authority over federal elections. That because time, place, and manner, Article 1, Section 2, Clause 1 of the U.S. Constitution, the plenary authority is retained by the state legislatures for time, place, and manner. And since electronic systems, voting systems are manner, and based on that, along with a designation by Department of Homeland Security in 2017 by their directors said that elections are considered critical infrastructure. Well, if it's critical infrastructure, therefore it should have the same standards to protect our national security. And of course, with the report from the EAC, Electronic Election Assistance Commission, and CISA, cybersecurity guys, they found erroneous code on Dominion machines and ES&S machines in other counties throughout the country, which nobody knows how they got on there, but they got fixed. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, sure.
Don't take our word for it. So I'm saying we're making a statement saying, no, you cannot use these machines as a primary source for conducting the elections, which means you have to use paper ballot hand count, and you know what? They can use a tabulator for secondary source to verify that the hand count is correct. That's acceptable. But you know what? You should not be using an election management system that has components made in countries that want to do us harm. Well, the pushback already from the left is amazing because they actually are siding with a third-party vendor rather than siding with the people to protect the elections from any kind of foreign interference, which is extremely telling.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the essence of it all. And if they choose to not comply, well, we'll deal with that. But I'm pretty sure that we're going to have some counties that want to comply with the state, and then I believe they're going to naturally be sued by the left, and that's fine because then it's going to go to the Supreme Court. Because we're talking about federal election goes to federal court.
Now, Sonny, let me ask you this. Obviously, with the pushback that is going to come from the left, of course, the ones that want to continue to steal our elections, what can the people in Arizona do to help you to get this to be a resolution that is going to have some teeth in it, number one? And number two, will we be able to have this before the 2024 elections?
That's the goal, to have this thing resolved before the 24 election. And people need to write their County Board of Supervisors and all the counties, saying that they need to comply with the Senate concurrent resolution that they systems shall not be used as a primary source for tabulating the ballots. They should go back to hand count paper ballots, and if logistically they need to go to smaller precincts, I think that people want that better. This way people were ensured that their ballot got counted as cast as they intended to be. And of course, like I said, if they want to run the ballots through a tabulator to verify that the numbers are right and everything is legit, then great. If it doesn't, if the tabulator says the numbers are wrong, then you go back to the paper, because that's the actual evidence that has to be followed. That's the actual vote.
And you got to ask yourself, why on earth would this pretend governor veto a bill that would keep a foreign interference out of elections? That's what they've been clamoring about, right, for all these years. Russia, this and that, going against our elections and hijacking our elections. Well, meanwhile, we have a solution here to get rid of foreign components in these election machines, and yet she goes out and she vetoes it. So I guess the reason she did that is because she knows that these Chinese and foreign parts are going to probably keep her in power and keep future Democrats in power as well.
Well, that's exactly one way to look at it. But, we waited to, I wanted to see how she was going to react on vetoing or not vetoing any kind of bills that would have put cybersecurity in the electronic voting system or, the election process. She has vetoed 2 bills that would have done that, secured the election from foreign interference. She vetoed that, but yet again, I have to reiterate, she signed an executive order banning TikTok being downloaded on any state equipment, phones and computers. So she's okay with that cybersecurity, but China. But
unbelievable.
Electronic voting system. So the hypocrisy is all over the place, Josh.
Yeah, it truly is. And let me just ask you one more thing. As far as Cartel Fontes, let's call him what he is, you expect pushback and lawsuits. Is he going to bring in Mark Elias, the cheeseburger eater there from Perkins Coie, to sue you guys? Is this going to be a long out court battle, or do you see this being quick?
Well, I imagine they're going to put up a fight. They've already come out publicly trying to discredit the resolution, saying that I'm not interpreting the Constitution the way it is. But that's why everybody always wants to dispute things like that and have a conversation, or an argument, whatever, however you want to look at it. I don't care. I don't care what they say. Moving forward, it's as simple as that. The elections do not belong to us elected people. They belong to the people. The people need to, they need to rise up, go to the supervisors, demand that they get off these machines as a primary source, and form an army of people to count ballots and count votes. Simple as that.
It's as simple as that.
Belong to them. They have to, look, and people are already complaining, these parts can't be made here in the United States. Wait a minute. It's the same standards for our weapons systems. When they find a computer chip made in China in an F-35, they have to ground all the aircraft until they replace that part. We're not talking about screws and nuts and bolts. We're talking about working components, electronic components that can be manipulated and, especially Wi-Fi capable, Bluetooth capable, where it's talking to other machines and stuff like that. Anything can be hacked. We need to make sure these things are secure. It's called cybersecurity, and everything is vulnerable electronic.
Yeah, no question about it.
Our conversation right now.
Yeah, exactly. No question about it. Sonny, before I let you go, I just want to ask you one more quick question. Obviously, we see the Kari Lake lawsuit still going through the court systems. Obviously, there is tons and tons of new evidence that clearly shows that it's impossible to do a signature verification in less than 3 seconds. We know that there have been hundreds and thousands of those that have been questioned, and of course, the evidence clearly shows that all of this was nefarious. What are your thoughts on that, and do you think we're going to get the Kari Lake miracle here?
Well, you never know. I'm praying for the judge to do the right thing and come to his senses and go, you're right, it's physically impossible to verify a signature in 1 second. It's going through, clicking yes. It's like I heard the analogy of, taking a book, thumbing through the pages real quick and saying you just read the book. I'm sorry, you did not read the book. You just thumbed through the pages and spread them out. It's just impossible to do that. So hopefully the judge is going to look at obviously common sense and realize that and order the county to actually provide the documents that they can to verify signatures, because that's the other obstruction and resistance that comes from the county supervisors, which is very telling. You have to look at how the other side reacts. If they're reacting in such a obstruction, resistance mode, then what are you hiding? If the thing was perfect, why are you hiding? If the devices, the machines are perfect, let us help you prove it. And
exactly.
Back once and for all. But no, you keep not hearing nothing but fight, fight, fight. So
yeah.
I'm hoping that what's going to happen is going to have one or two counties that are going to step forward and say they're going to comply with the Senate resolution.
Mm-hmm.
And then, obviously, I believe the left is going to sue that county to prevent them from doing that. And then, it'll be game on. But see, you have to understand, sometimes you have to probe the enemy and see how they're going to react. And right now I'm watching how they're reacting, and it's very comical. So,
is there any way to get this to an expedited review at the Supreme Court if and when litigation comes down the pike, which hopefully it will, because we want to get a solution and a resolution to this?
This is our authority, our plenary authority over federal elections. It's enshrined in the Constitution.
Exactly.
This will start in the federal court, and then obviously it could end up at the Supreme Court. And I believe that we have standing because we have three branches of government, and the legislature is enshrined in the Constitution that the legislature has plenary authority over federal elections, not the governor and not the court. So it's simple as that. Not the judiciary or the executive branch. This is the legislative branch. It's called separation of powers. And my argument is we are claiming our separation of powers, our plenary authority over through the legislature over elections.
Yep, that's it. That's it in a nutshell. One more question about the border. Obviously, we see what's going on. Title 42 has ended. Texas is kind of holding strong. But, of course, we have the governor here. We've got New Mexico. We've got California. And the onslaught of these illegal aliens is still coming through Arizona and elsewhere. Is there anything that the state legislature can do, or is this completely having to do with the executive branch and the executive branch only?
No, all we can do is appropriate money for that, which we have. We've given money for the border security strike force. They renamed it. She wanted to rename it, so we renamed it, but which is fine. But we allocated more money to the county sheriff, the border sheriffs, for them to do more enforcement and stuff like that, for drug interdiction and human trafficking, sex trafficking, stuff like that. So we've allocated funds for that to help out our border sheriffs. But as far as her doing anything more than that, I doubt it very much. I'm not going to hold my breath because I'll die. But it's really a travesty that, they will always want to refer to the federal government as a responsibility when it's the state has a responsibility when the federal government fails.
Absolutely. Well said. Well, Sonny, thank you so much for being on the program. God bless you.
Once again, I want to reiterate, this resolution was not about 2020 election or the 22 election. This is about national security. Pure and simple. National security. Homeland Security said elections, electronic voting systems are a part of critical infrastructure. It should have the same standards for our weapon systems. And you know what? If we can't control our elections and keep foreign adversaries out of it, this country is gone. So once again, this is about national security. DoD standards for our weapon system should be implemented as something as critical infrastructure as our elections. This should be a no-brainer. The other side should be embracing this.
Exactly.
Instead of fighting, they would rather support and defend a third-party vendor that has total autonomy from any kind of government oversight.
Well,
look at Cochise County. What happened with Cochise County when they decided to do a hand count of all their precincts? The Secretary of State tried to intimidate them. They stood strong. They went forward and voted for it. The supervisors voted to do a hand count of all their precincts. And then Mark Elias sued Cochise County to tie them up in court long enough. We had to run out the clock toward the deadline hit that they had to canvass and certify the election, or they would have been charged with a felony. Now, why did they do that? Well, because it's in statute. If the county's going to do a 100% hand count of all the precincts, the Secretary of State would have had to turn over the source codes to a special master that shall be appointed by the court and shall be made public to the court and the Secretary of State of their findings. They would have had to given up the source codes for the electronic voting systems, and they fought that. So obviously, the proof is in the pudding. They do not want to have any kind of government oversight over elections. And by the way, your taxpayer dollars are paying for that, and the citizens are entitled to that type of protection and that type of oversight.
Not only that, but it's not illegal for them to do these recounts and to question these elections. And whether there's intimidation from the outside groups like Perkins Coie and others, they couldn't have arrested them. That's the reality. They threatened them with that, but they really couldn't do it because that was their job, to contest the elections. It's an Arizona statute. I can't think of it offhand, but I did research on that.
It is very telling on how they react.
Exactly.
So somebody goes, well, there's no proof. Well, the proof is how they act. The proof is how they act.
Yep.
Anyway.
You're absolutely right. Sonny, again, thank you so much. You're a good buddy. You're a good friend of mine. Keep doing the great work that you're doing in Arizona. God bless you, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. It's a team effort. By the way, every Republican voted for all those bills and that resolution. Not one Democrat stepped up.
Well, that's very telling as well, is it not?
Yep.
Okay. God bless, Sonny. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Take care, buddy. Bye.